Part 11. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 101. In the translucent white atmosphere, two Skyblade battleships are suspended high in the sea of clouds. From above the Skyblade, you can clearly see the continuous palace complex below, which is shrouded by a translucent blue energy barrier. At this moment, the location directly below the Skyblade battleship is the Tianzhan King City, which is garrisoned by more than 200,000 angel residents and more than 50,000 regular angel soldiers. When Binghua looked down through the Skyblade's projection screen, Sabino, who was in the Sky War King City, was also looking at the Skyblade suspended high in the sky. "What are you going to do, young Legion Commander?" Sabino, who had silver hair and a beard, stood alone on the 100-meter-high exterior platform of the Heavenly War King's palace, muttering to himself in a low voice. "Report to Commander Sabino, according to your order, an order has been issued to the Border Angel Legion to quickly return to the Royal City to aid." A male angel soldier wearing a silver helmet landed from the sky behind Sabino and loudly reported. "I understand, you go down first." "Yes, Lord Legion Commander." After saying that, the soldiers left the platform, and Sabino, who was responsible for guarding the Tianzhan King City, finally turned and entered the hall behind him after staring at the Skyblade battleship in the sky for a while. The light dimmed suddenly, and what appeared inside was a very spacious hall. There were square silver stone pillars at both ends of the hall supporting the high-hanging dome of the hall, and the sunlight projected from the hollow dome. There is plenty of light in this hall. At the highest point of the hall, a young man who looked young was sitting on the metal throne covered with silver luxurious patterns. He asked in an anxious tone, "Grandpa Sabino, do you think we can win?" "King, you don't have to worry. The veteran will annihilate all invading enemies outside the royal city and will not betray the trust that King Tianzhan has placed in me." Sabino was half kneeling on the ground. Coupled with the silver-gray armor that looked old and full of wear and tear, he exuded an inexplicable powerful aura. "Then I, the king, can rest assured. Grandpa Sabino, I will leave all the defense of the royal city to you. I will definitely live up to the king's trust." The veteran will take his leave first. Sabino raised his right hand to his chest and saluted, then stood up and turned around to leave the palace hall. After Sabino left, the calm expression of the young man sitting on the throne instantly turned into panic, and at the same time his whole body began to tremble slightly. "We can't win. With the current strength of the royal city, we can't defeat those female angels. My father is dead, and I'm going to die too. What to do? What to do?" This young man is the new Heavenly War King named Huaning. He is the second son of the previous Heavenly War King and has been favored since he was a child. After the death of the Heavenly War King, Sabino pushed Huaning, the second son of the Heavenly War King, to the throne in order to stabilize the morale of the angel legions on the border of the Mir galaxy. But this newly appointed Heavenly War King simply does not have the king's magnanimity and courage, but Sabino really can't find a suitable candidate, so he can only resort to this strategy. Otherwise, the Mir galaxy without the control of the Angel King may be in chaos in an instant. In a ball. As the second son of the King of Heavenly War, there is a reason why he is not useful. The eldest son of King of Heavenly War died in a war with the Beast Body civilization hundreds of years ago. This made the lost son of King of Heavenly War very sad. So after giving birth to his second son Huaning more than 200 years ago, King Tianzhan poured all the love he had for his eldest son into his second son Huaning. Huaning, who has enjoyed double love, naturally has all the flaws in his character, such as being very fond of having fun, doing things in 3 minutes of heat, and being afraid of pain. This resulted in Huaning being only a third-rate player both in culture and martial arts, which made the previous Heavenly War King very worried. However, Huaning knew how to figure out his father's thoughts, and was often able to say all kinds of good things to please Hua Bin. In addition, Huaning was not old, so the matter of urging Huaning to study was delayed. But the sudden death of the heavenly war king put the burden of the angel king on Huaning's shoulders. The external defense problems of the Mir galaxy and the invasion of the Heavenly Sword Legion made the carefree Huaning feel overwhelmed. There was a little mental problem. Especially when he thought about how he would die if the royal city was breached by the Heavenly Sword Legion, Huaning would tremble uncontrollably and talk to himself randomly. Everything happening in the Tianzhan King city has nothing to do with Binghua at this moment. Now Binghua is studying how to break the giant barrier that envelops the entire Tianzhan King city. Binghua and Angel Ran discussed how to break through the barrier through the projection light screen, and in the air in front of Binghua was floating a projection model of the Tianzhan King city. The overall coverage of Tianzhan King city reaches hundreds of kilometers, most of which are tall metal buildings with silver and gray colors and similar styles, and the closer to the center of the king city, the taller the buildings. In the center of the royal city is a giant palace with a height of more than 2,000 meters, just like a metal mountain peak located in the royal city. However, problems with buildings and terrain are not a problem at all for angels who can fight in the air. Binghua was thinking about how to solve the barrier covering the entire Tianzhan King city. According to the answer calculated and analyzed by Tianren, the barrier was a type of large light energy barrier. This large energy barrier similar to Merlot's homeland cannot be directly penetrated even by the focused main gun of the Skyblade battleship. If you want to break this kind of barrier, you can only break it if the energy in a moment exceeds the upper limit of the barrier's carrying capacity. Otherwise, the energy that is missing in the barrier will be replenished to an intact state in a moment. Binghua thought about several ways, but in the end she rejected them one by one because time did not allow her to do that. Binghua clenched her hand on the armrest of the throne and her face turned very ugly, while she murmured, "You only gave me two choices." The reason why Binghua looked ugly was because everything Sabino did clearly expressed a meaning. Either choose to lead the Heavenly Sword Legion to retreat, or end up in ruins. Not long ago, Binghua received a piece of news that surprised her. The Angel Legion that had been deployed at the border of the Mir galaxy withdrew its troops and gave way to the outside entrance to the Angel Nebula. The retreating border guard Angel Legion is now rushing towards the Mir star system. Although the border guard Legion only has about 60,000 troops, it is enough to pose a certain degree of threat to the Sky Sword Legion. Therefore, there is not much time left for Binghua. When the Border Angel Legion arrives in the Mir star system, Sabino will send troops from the royal city to attack the Sky Sword Legion, and he will be able to achieve a double-sided attack on the Sky Sword Legion with the arriving Border Angel Legion. When the time comes, the Heavenly Sword Legion will be attacked from both sides. Even if the Heavenly Sword Legion can win in the end, it will definitely suffer heavy losses. This is something Binghua never wants to see. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 102. Binghua put his right hand under his nose to support his face. His dark eyes were staring at the projection model of Tianzhan King City in front of him, and then he suddenly asked Angel Ran in a low voice. "Ran, what do you think I should choose?" "Legion Commander, I can't answer this. I only know that wherever your sword points, Legion Commander, the sisters will rush there." Angel Ran's face was solemn, and his words were filled with an inexplicable trust, but it was this unconditional trust that made Binghua finally make up his mind. Binghua closed his eyes and began to meditate again. Now the total strength of the Sky Sword Legion in the Mir star system is 3 Skyblade battleships and the Angel Legion is 150,000. In order to deter the unstable third planet of the Mir star system, the Tianjian Legion assigned 40,000 troops to station on the third planet along with Angel Ian's Tianren II. So now Binghua only has 110,000 troops and 2 Skyblade battleships at his disposal. To break the giant barrier of the Heavenly War King City, at least 4 Heavenly Blade warships would be required to carry out a minimum star-destroying strike at the same time. But what has always troubled Binghua is that the Tianjian Legion does not have 4 celestial warships that can carry out star-destroying strikes. At the same time, as long as Sabino remains huddled behind the barrier of the royal city, Binghua has nothing to do with him. When the Border Angel army arrives, the Heavenly Sword army, which is attacked from both sides, may even be at risk of defeat, so Binghua cannot afford to hold him back. But now there are only 2 ways in front of Binghua. One is to lead the Heavenly Sword Legion to evacuate the Mir star system directly and give up the fruits of victory that are within easy reach. The other is to launch a devastating star-destroying strike on Mir planet, directly destroying this living planet and the Tianjian King city above. The reason why Binghua has been hesitant is that although destroying a planet sounds simple, you must know that there are countless creatures and hundreds of thousands of angels living on a living planet. The power of life and death for so many lives lies in Binghua's thoughts. This is why Binghua has not made up his mind. But after Angel Ran's words of unconditional trust reached Binghua's ears just now, Binghua felt that he was too hesitant. Since the sisters under his command trusted him so much, he had to repay their trust. Thinking of this, Binghua no longer hesitated. Compared to the strange angels she had never met before, Binghua cared more about the lives of the sisters of the Heavenly Sword Legion. Binghua temporarily turned off the projection of the discussion with Angel Ran, and sat upright to directly connect to the main communication channel of the 2 Skyblades. Skyblade Flagship, Skyblade number 1, I order to immediately start preparations for a planet annihilation strike, targeting the surface of the planet outside the scope of the Mir star Tianjian King City. As soon as Binghua's order was issued, the Heavenly Sword Legion soldiers, including Angel Ran, were stunned and carried out a star-killing strike on the living planets in the Angel Nebula. This kind of thing has not happened in the Angel civilization for hundreds of years. Even when Huaya attacked Marrow Star decades ago, he only launched a pseudo-star destroyer strike that could break through the shield of Marrow homeworld. But what their Legion commanders were talking about just now was a real star destroyer strike. However, although they were surprised by Binghua's behavior, no one raised any objections. When the 2 Heavenly Blade warships began to prepare for a star-destroying strike, and when they crazily gathered the energy radiated from the stars, the sky above the Heavenly War King city quickly became dim. The sun was still high in the sky, but the angels in Tianjian King city could not feel the slightest bit of sunlight shining on their bodies. Sabino naturally saw this scene. Compared to ordinary angels who didn't know what happened, he clearly knew the reason for this phenomenon. The 2 celestial warships belonging to the Sky Sword Legion suspended in the sky are planning a star-killing strike. This is beyond Sabino's expectation, but it is also reasonable. Sabino was slightly impressed by the decisiveness of the commander of the Heavenly Sword Legion, and at the same time spoke a little self-deprecatingly. You will make this choice. Even if the Mill Galaxy is handed over to you, it seems that the reputation of the angel will not be weakened. Then Sabino immediately turned around and left quickly, rushing to the Angel Legion's garrison in Tianjian King City. King, pack your things quickly. Mir Star can no longer be defended. A male angel who looked to be in his teens wearing silver-gray clothing was earnestly persuading the current Heavenly War King Huaning, who was sitting on the throne. Didn't Sabino say that he could annihilate the enemy army outside the royal city? Huaning questioned in disbelief at first, but the young male angel below spoke with a bitter look on his face. King, that's just the best-case scenario, General Sabino said. But now the female angel has planned to launch a star-killing strike against Mir Star. If we don't leave, we will be buried with Mir Star. Huaning fell down on the throne, staring at the bent male angel with wide eyes, and raised his fingers tremblingly in the direction of the sky. You said they want to destroy Mir Star. Are those women crazy? Where is Sabino? Where is Sabino? I want to ask him personally, didn't he say that he can annihilate the enemy army outside the royal city? The male angel below bent even lower, and spoke with a hint of sadness and pleading in his tone. King, General Sabino can't come. The general asked me to bring you a message, saying that he can't leave. The female angel will not let him and the 60,000 angel defenders under his command leave Mir Star. The general also said that after the enemy's Star Destroyer strike fell, he would directly close the barrier of the Tianzhan King City to allow the residents of the King City to escape from Mir. The general also asked Wang Yu to take your mother, bodyguards, and information about a generation of God-making projects among the ordinary angels who escaped from the royal city, and leave the angel nebula to seek other development. If you are not strong enough, never come back. After hearing this, Huaning slumped on the throne as if he had lost his soul, and was speechless for a long time. After more than an hour of brewing, an orange-red energy vortex of nearly 10 kilometers appeared at the center of the two sky blades. The dazzling light it emits dyes the sky orange, as if the sky is burning. Then Tianren began to tilt the ship, and with the assistance of the supercomputer carried by Tianren, he aimed at the surface of the planet outside Tianzhan King City. Then the orange-red energy vortex at the center of the two sky blades suddenly turned into two orange-red dazzling light beams and shot out, hitting the ground of Mir Star instantly. A deafening loud noise echoed between heaven and earth, followed by a continuous rumbling sound from the ground. Along with the violent tremors of the earth, some sloping peaks and cliffs on the surface began to crack and collapse. The ponds and lakes near the orange-red light beams quickly evaporated, exposing the cracked lake bottom silt. After shooting continuously for about a minute, the dazzling orange light beam finally began to shrink until it disappeared. But at this moment, the sky of Mir Star began to change rapidly. The white clouds began to condense as if they were free, and gradually turned into thick dark clouds. A trace of extremely heavy depression filled the hearts of all the beings living on Mir. After launching the Star Destroyer strike, the two sky blades began to rise rapidly, seemingly preparing to retreat outside the atmosphere of Mir Star. At the same time, in the huge crater blasted out by the sky blade's Star Destroyer strike, a little bit of burning red began to appear, and then became more and more intense. After a few seconds, the hot lava poured out of the crater like a fountain. Jet out. I've been having a cold these past 2 days and I'm feeling a little down, so I'm updating all at once, but I'll be back to normal updates soon. In addition, the author shamelessly asks you to vote for various kinds of votes. Anyway, there is only one kind of vote that can be cast, #Omega #. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 103. Binghua walked out of the command room and came to the platform extending out from the center of the Tianren battleship. From her position, she could clearly see the changes that had taken place on the entire Mir Star. Planet Mir was originally a green planet that exuded light that symbolized life, and its surface was covered with lush vegetation. But at this moment, the planet that originally exuded a weak light of life seemed to be dead after Tianren launched the star-destroying strike, and the entire planet became dim. At the same time, Binghua also noticed that all the volcanoes on Mir planet, whether silent or in the eruption stage, had become more active than ever before, constantly spraying large amounts of hot molten lava and volcanic ash into the sky. The spreading volcanic ash dyed the sky into gray in a moment, and at the same time, the earth began to shake violently, and terrifying black abyss appeared crisscrossing. The Skyblade warship is not a warship specially designed to destroy planets, so the Star Destroyer strike launched cannot destroy a planet instantly. It can only penetrate the surface of the planet and drive huge energy into the core of the planet, causing the core of the planet to expand and disintegrate. But this process takes several minutes to 10 minutes of fermentation time. Suddenly Binghua's eyes froze, and he didn't know when the giant barrier covering the Tianzhan King City disappeared. At the same time, a large group of battleships began to rush out of the atmosphere of Mir Star, and the route was deliberately chosen at the farthest angle from the Skyblade battleship. Binghua shifted his gaze in that direction, and the Skyblade battleship immediately projected a screen in front of his eyes, magnifying the picture 1,000 times. What is shown on the screen is a huge motley fleet that is large enough to swamp 2 Skyblades. Among them, battleships with the appearance of medieval warships accounted for the majority, but they were all very old models. At the same time, the decks of the spaceships were also filled with ordinary angels in different costumes. Legion Commander, we found a large fleet on the right side of Tianren. Do you want to intercept it with fire? Binghua looked away, not paying attention to that person, but answered in a faint tone. No need to intercept, I've destroyed their home, just let them go. But don't let your guard down, if they have any overreaction just open fire and attack. The female angel who applied for interception to Binghua answered yes and hung up the communication. Are you finally willing to come out? Sabino, the guard of Mir Star. Binghua once again shifted his gaze to the direction of the heavenly War King city on Mir planet. Through the darkening clouds, his dark eyes seemed to see the hundreds of medieval warship-style warships that were gradually gathering. Sabino was dressed in military uniform and holding a long-handled sword. He stood alone on the bow of the battleship at the front of the fleet. Behind him were hundreds of spaceships with black hulls. Similarly, there were battles on the deck of every spaceship. Man was an angel warrior holding a war spear, showing a look of death. The most elite warriors under King Tianzhan. In order to protect our evacuated relatives, we launch an attack on the enemy who destroyed our home. Sabino roared loudly and said. After he finished speaking, the engine power of hundreds of warships increased to the highest level and rushed straight into the sky. The target was the 2 Skyblade warships parked in the outer space of Mir Star. The moment the fleet group led by Sabino appeared, Binghua saw it. It was difficult not to notice the group of hundreds of battleships charging. The Skyblade battleship obeys the order and retreats quickly. At the same time, it fires full force forward to prevent the enemy fleet from approaching. Under Binghua's order, the 2 Skyblade battleships originally parked in the outer space of Mir Star began to fly backwards quickly, while tilting forward countless dense rays like light spears. The next moment, extremely dense light spots appeared in the sight of Sabino, who was standing on the bow of the leading ship. The dazzling light stretched his shadow behind him. Then the violently rolling fire cloud covered the fleet of hundreds of warships, but the next moment those warships rushed out of the fire cloud with blue translucent shields. Are you very good at it? Little girl. Sabino looked at the Skyblade battleship that was usually flying upside down but did not forget to tilt its fire towards itself. After sighing slightly, he shouted again in the communication channel with a ferocious expression. Fighters! Don't be afraid, we are only one step away from the goal. Sabino responded with a deafening roar, which was exactly the effect Sabino wanted. When Binghua saw that the enemy fleet continued to charge forward with its shield, Binghua frowned and continued to issue attack orders to Tianren. Keep the speed and continue to retreat to gain distance. The Skyblade main cannon begins to charge up. Before the contact battle occurs, the number of enemies will be reduced to the greatest extent. After hearing Binghuaxin's order, the position of the Tianren center hull immediately began to gather the star energy scattered in the universe. Hundreds of meters of thick orange-red beams spanned the space, burning the male angel warships on the Skyblade main cannon firing track, as well as the male angel warriors on board. However, as the 2 sides exchange fire, neither Binghua on the extended platform of the Skyblade nor Sabino standing on the bow of the battleship have any change in their expressions. However, Binghua was calm when commanding the battle, while Sabino had long been aware of death. The casualties of his soldiers and the frequent explosions and disintegration of warships could not cause any fluctuations in his face. The current situation is that Binghua commands the Skyblade battleship to fly the kite of Sabino's fleet. Relying on Skyblade's range and firepower advantages, This tactic has already started when Sabino led the fleet out of the atmosphere. Although this method of warfare is shameless, neither Binghua nor Sabino will use it without hesitation on the battlefield, because this is war. There is no despicableness or shamelessness, only victory or death. As time went on, the distance between Sabino's fleet and the Skyblade was rapidly shrinking, and Sabino paid nearly half of the casualties among his legionnaires. There is no way around this. Tianren's huge size brings unparalleled firepower and defense. On the contrary, the ordinary sailing speed is naturally not as fast as ordinary battleships. Seeing that the distance between the two sides had entered a dangerous distance, Binghua directly ordered the Heavenly Sword Legion soldiers carried in the Heavenly Blade to come out of the ship to fight. At the same time, Sabino also raised his long-handled sword, spread his wings behind his back, jumped away from the bow of the battleship, and shouted in the dark communication channel. "Everyone abandon the ship. Charge with me and defeat the enemy." The next moment, countless male angel warriors left the battleship at their feet, relying on their own bodies and angel wings that could survive in space to continuously accelerate and rush towards the giant Skyblade battleship suspended not far away. And those warships did not stop moving forward, but continued to rush in the direction of the Skyblade, like giant cannonballs. In the other direction, there are about 100,000 female angels wearing red cherry helmets with their visors pulled down, holding war spears and Tia alloy shields forming a large network-layered formation, and they are constantly inciting their wings to float on the Skyblade. The battleships were waiting in front. Binghua was wearing a gorgeous Legion commander's battle armor. He held the hilt of his rapier Langguang sword on the ground in front of him with both hands. The silver-gray cloak behind his back was slightly spread by his bent elbows, almost covering Binghua's curvaceous body. Live. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 104. A huge explosion appeared on the shield of the Skyblade battleship, and dozens of enemy warships hundreds of meters long launched a self-destructive attack on the Skyblade. The violent explosion and the energy reaction caused by the explosion of the energy reactor in the battleship stirred the surrounding universe and caused slight distortion. The instability of space immediately interfered with Skyblade's large energy shield and began to become unstable. However, this was within Binghua's expectation, and this was also the reason why Sabino brought a large group of battleships to attack the Skyblade regardless of losses. If Sabino directly leads tens of thousands of angel warriors to rush towards the Skyblade, with the size of the angel warriors, the firepower pouring effect of the Skyblade will not be too great. However, Sabino will also be helpless against Skyblade's large shield. Today's angel civilization has abandoned bulky armor and individual energy weapons due to development reasons. If you want to break the shield of a celestial battleship, only an attack from the same celestial battleship can be successful, and besides the above method, there is another method. That is to make the space fluctuate, thereby interfering with the energy density of the energy shield, so as to achieve the effect of cracking the large energy shield carried by the celestial warship. The core energy furnace in the space battleship that supplies energy to the entire battleship is very suitable. When it explodes, the violent energy reaction that occurs can briefly oscillate the space and interfere with the energy density of the large energy shield. As long as there are enough energy reactors exploding at the same time, the celestial battleship's shield can be overloaded. The period of time during which the large shield of the celestial battleship is overloaded is enough for the Angel to break into the close range of the Skyblade battleship. The orange shield that originally covered the entire Skyblade seemed to have unstable signals, and there were faint signs of collapse under the simultaneous bombardment of dozens of violent explosions. Before the Skyblade's shield could be restored, explosions that were denser than before exploded on the shield at the same time, raising the brightness of the universe around the Skyblade by several levels. Sabino ordered all the surviving warships to attack the Skyblade warship where Binghua was. Finally, under the impact of the second wave of self-destruction of the warships, the orange shield of the Skyblade was overloaded with energy for a moment, and suddenly turned into countless energy fragments and collapsed. The male angels, numbering around 30,000, immediately passed through the debris of the shield energy that had not dissipated, opened their mouths and let out a roar that only they could hear, and rushed towards the female angel warriors who were waiting for them. Sabino was also in the charge team. He raised his head and looked up at the shield-like central hull of the sky blade behind countless dense female angels. The interlaced golden patterns and prismatic blue crystals on it formed an emanation divine breath pattern. Seeing the male angels rushing over with their destructive gazes, the female angels raised their shields one after another, their arms holding the spears slightly bent and ready to thrust out at any time. Sisters, don't panic. Pay attention to cooperating with each other. After the first wave of impact, immediately gather with the surrounding sisters to form a 5-person combat team and start the team combat mode. A guardian angel holding a heavy sword shouted loudly in the channel of the team he commanded, and also made an attack posture. The next moment the male angel arrived, it was like a torrent of silver that swallowed the sky and the earth and hit the red and white copper and iron walls. The momentum of the silver torrent was instantly blocked, spreading rapidly to the surroundings, and tending to gradually collapse the red and white copper wall. The female angel holding a spear and shield vigorously swung the spear in her hand to stab the enemy in front, while trying to protect her body with the shield. The male angel was indeed a bit unsuitable at first, but the female angel quickly found a way to crack this fighting method. That is to use the characteristics of the universe that cannot be borrowed, and use your maximum speed and strength to directly push the female angels out of the formation. The angel wings behind Sabino quickly flapped, looking at the metal wall formed by female angels in front of him. He held the long handle of the sword with both hands, his eyes widened and he shouted softly. The sword blade drew an arc in the void and struck from right to left in the middle of the female angels arrayed with shields for defense. The next moment, the guarding angels who were in charge of this area heard a few painful groans from the female angels coming from the communication channel, and their 5 companions flew backwards like discharged cannonballs. Block the gap. Withstand the enemy's first wave. Before the guarding angel could finish her words, an old angel wearing ferocious silver armor and carrying a long-handled sword rushed in front of her. The guarding angel immediately focused all his attention on the old angel, and had no time to command his team. He raised the alloy heavy sword in his hand and was ready to attack. However, the speed of this old angel was extremely fast. As soon as the guardian angel raised his sword and prepared to attack, the old angel passed her by. The guardian angel's movements suddenly froze. She lowered her head slightly and saw a horizontal line of blood appearing on her abdomen at some point. The next moment, her eyes rolled forward and she lost interest, and a large amount of bright red overflowed from the corners of her mouth. For the drops of blood floating around her. Sabino was like a sharp saber, instantly piercing through the defenses formed by the female angels, and at the same time tearing apart the female angels' defensive formations for the male angel warriors who followed him. And Sabino's goal is very clear, which is the extended platform at the center of the Skyblade battleship, because there is a female angel in a gorgeous armor and cape standing there. From where Binghua stood, he could clearly see the battle situation, and he naturally spotted Sabino, who was unstoppable along the way. Attention to the angel team in the 5th area, avoid the advancing path of the enemy's old angel wearing silver armor, and block the angels following him. Binghua commanded, and at the same time, her dark eyes staring at Sabino were ignited with a burning desire to fight, because finally there was another 3rd-generation warrior who could be her opponent. On the battlefield below, the angel Ran was holding a flaming sword that shone with lightning, and he was stabbing at the male angel holding the cross sword in a continuous stream. For the first time, facing an opponent like Angel Ran who could drive lightning power, this 2nd-generation captain-level male angel was very uncomfortable. No, while avoiding the continuous thrusts of Angel Ran's flaming sword, he was accidentally hit by the thunder and lightning on the blade, which caused him to fall into paralysis, resulting in several bloody holes in his body immediately. Angel Ran stepped forward without hesitation and struck a blow with the flaming sword, fully understanding the male angel's life. Legion Commander, are you going to face the enemy's third-generation super soldier alone again? This is too dangerous. Let's ask the Guardian Angels to cooperate with you in the encirclement and killing operation. Angel Ran retreated to avoid the attacks of other male angels, and swung the flaming sword to fight back, while still contacting Binghua. Ran, don't worry about my safety. The Guardian Angels have asked me to send out to maintain the balance of the mid-level combat power on the battlefield. Also, don't forget that I defeated a third-generation warrior a few months ago, and that I am no longer what I used to be, many times stronger than I was before. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 105. When Sabinati's sword was about to split open the layers of guarding angels blocking the way with flames in front of them, those angels actually separated to both sides, leaving a passage leading directly to the center of the Skyblade's hull. Sabino raised his eyebrows and did not choose to change direction to find trouble with those guardian angels. Instead, he continued to rush forward without slowing down. Although the guardian angels received Binghua's order to let Sabino, who had the highest combat power, pass, the male angels who charged behind Sabino were not so lucky. Stepping onto Skyblade's last line of defense, the area guarded by the most elite guarding angels is not that easy to pass. After Sabino passed through, the passage closed instantly and cut off the tail following Sabino. Sabino did not choose to turn back to rescue, but flew straight in the direction of Binghua. The guardian angels holding flaming swords are veterans with rich combat experience and know how to use their own advantages. First, the first-level guard angels of the second-generation warriors divided the formation of the male angels, and then the second-level guard angels immediately followed up to entangle their opponents. At this time, the first-level guard angels turned back to conduct a sneak attack. With close cooperation and our own numerical advantage, we had an absolute upper hand for a while. Binghua held the thin sword in her hand and stared at the old angel who slowly landed more than 10 meters in front of her. You must be Sabino, the guard of Mir Star. You really made me make a very difficult choice before. Compared to Binghua, Sabino's expression was much calmer, as if he was not the one who was at the end of his rope now, and he just spoke in silence. This is war, no mercy. Hearing this, Binghua closed her eyes slightly and then opened them again. A hint of coldness flashed through her dark eyes, and the corners of her mouth that had been slightly raised also calmed down. You are right, but I want to thank you. It is you who let me know the responsibilities and necessary decisions that a Legion commander needs to bear, so you cannot leave this galaxy today. After Binghua finished speaking, a flash of blue light appeared on his body, and he crossed a distance of more than 10 meters like a phantom and came to Sabino. The thin sword in his hand pierced out like a flash of lightning. Sabino's eyes were focused, and his silver hair was blown back, and his head swung to the right in a hurry. The Binghua thrust missed and was replaced by a backhand slash. At the same time, a weak electric light began to surge on the outside of the arm. Huge kinetic energy was instantly exerted on the entire arm, and the speed increased several times, as if it was ejected. Electromagnetic artillery shells. As soon as Sabino crouched down, his wings shrank down behind him, and almost at the same time, a blue arc of light swept over his head. But Sabino, who was half crouching, was not one who would not fight back when being beaten. He raised his sword in his hand and struck with a slash, while his eyes were wide open and his mouth seemed to be roaring. The moment Binghua's horizontal slash failed, while his body was still spinning in the air due to inertia, he exploded back without hesitation and was not greedy at all. His whole body was wrapped in an electric light as if he had been bounced away by something. After landing, he was still flying. He took a few steps back before stopping. The sword in Sabino's hand has now been completely submerged into the metal platform at his feet. If Binghua hadn't retreated decisively just now, he would have been split in half and dismembered on the spot. Although the situation just now was thrilling, for both of them, it was just a temptation to kill each other. Sabino was surprised that Binghua had such fast speed, which was beyond the level of ordinary third-generation super soldiers. Hyuka, on the other hand, had a certain degree of anticipation of Sabino's fighting intentions. Even if he suddenly attacked, he was able to react and made a fatal and effective counterattack. Just now, Binghua felt that if he hadn't retreated quickly, even the third-generation warrior would have been split in half instantly. Looking at the majority of the blade that was submerged in the metal platform, you can tell how well Sabino utilizes his power. Hyuka slightly shook her right arm that felt a little uncomfortable, and raised her rapier Langguang again. Both sides were enemies who wanted to kill each other, and there was no common language to talk about. Sabino pulled out his long-handled sword from the metal ground and pointed the tip behind him to chop it down at any time. He stood with his legs splayed. He decided to take action, but before that he said something. "Sokka, you should know, right? He is my child, so, you must die." Binghua's pupils shrank suddenly, her body tilted to one side, and she kicked the ground hard into the air. The next moment, where she was just now, a bright silver sword light fell from the sky. Accompanied by the harsh friction sound of tearing, a 2 to 3 meter vertical split with burning light appeared on the ground. Only then did the last few words that Sabino said came out. As soon as Binghua dodged the attack, the wings on his back suddenly spread out and spread rapidly. He turned around in the air and changed from retreat to advance. The stabbing sword in his hand was curled up in front of his chest with the electric light surrounding it. He aimed it at Sabino's head and charged up a stab. For a moment, the scene was surrounded by electric light and electric buzzing, and it seemed full of momentum, but this level of lightning was simply not enough for Sabino. Lifting the long handle of the knife defused Binghua's charged stab, then turned back on the spot and rotated the sword 360 degrees to strike again. There was a flash of lightning on Binghua's body, and Sabino felt that Binghua's figure in his sight flashed, and he suddenly jumped up, and then he saw a metal combat boot kicking his head hard. Boom! A dull sound echoed in the platform. Sabino's raised left arm blocked Binghua's kick, and due to the difference in body strength, Binghua's calves were numb from the shock. Then, at the moment when Sabino held the knife with one hand, Binghua's figure once again ignored the inertia and suddenly retreated, leaving only a sizzling circular electric circle in the air that was rapidly collapsing. It was completely beyond Sabino's expectations. So Sabino did not continue to pursue, but stood there with his sword in hand, thinking about something. The ice flower also fell on the ground not far away again, raising the level of danger for Sabino in his heart. Binghua felt that he had encountered the type of enemy that could restrain him the most, which were super soldiers who specialized in combat skills. Most of a super soldier's combat power is determined by physical fitness, but not all of it. The understanding of dark energy drive and combat skills can allow a super soldier to gain strength that is beyond the same level. Just like Binghua herself, her swordsmanship and combat awareness are among the best at her level. She can easily kill second-generation warriors of the same level, and can even deal with third-generation warriors for a period of time. But now after the few fights just now, Binghua discovered that Sabino was the kind of super soldier with rich combat experience and superb use of weapons. It's not like Sokka last time, a super soldier who relied on the power of the third-generation super soldier and dark energy drive to crush his opponents. If Binghua hadn't used the newly developed first-generation thunder tactics in the past few times to avoid Sabino's blade by using forced movement that ignores inertia to a certain extent, he would have been in trouble by now. The battle just now seemed simple, and neither side seemed to be injured, but both Binghua and Sabino approached each other's vitals with the idea of probing and killing with one blow. Every thrust of Binghua was aimed at Sabino's head, and every time the long-handled sword in Sabino's hand fell, it was with the intention of splitting Binghua in half. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 106. During the moment of confrontation between the two, the mere star that had been serving as the background of the battlefield underwent drastic changes. Scary red lines that looked like rivers spread all over the planet Mir. The original continental shelf began to break and was gradually engulfed by the magma that surged to the surface. The atmosphere that originally enveloped the entire planet has become extremely thin due to a large number of volcanic eruptions and the melting of glaciers at the poles. The loss of gravity caused broken peaks and some small rocks to slowly float away from the surface, and lakes and seas also quickly evaporated and were swallowed up by lava. Then Mir star suddenly exploded in front of everyone's eyes, like an exploding watermelon, turning into giant debris of lava that could not be measured by the speed carrier, scattered in its original orbit. And because Tianren had been far away from the Mir star in its previous pursuit battle with the Sabino fleet, it was not affected by the power of the planet explosion. However, the energy diffusion wave of the planet explosion swept across the positions of Binghua and Sabino, causing a momentary change in the surrounding space magnetic field. With one movement, Sabino appeared in front of Binghua, dragging his sword with him. He raised his sword high like an ancient warrior. The halo of dark energy was very conspicuous under the light of the planet explosion. Binghua reacted and leaned back, preparing to use the electromagnetic force to fly backwards to avoid it. However, due to the change in the magnetic field in the space, the effect was not great for a while, and he only moved 2 meters backward. And Sabino's raised sword did not strike down immediately. Instead, he stepped forward with the help of his wings and approached the retreating Binghua. On Sabino's face, which had been calm and indifferent since the beginning of the battle, the corners of his mouth suddenly turned up ferociously, as if he was happy for the enemy who could kill his child with his own hands. However, Binghua didn't feel any panic at this moment. Since he couldn't escape, he should be faster than anyone else. He dodged sideways and turned around, then swung the rapier across Sabino's neck. The turbulent lightning almost enveloped Binghua's right hand. The swift lightning sword and the silver blade collided at this moment, and there was a dull and loud bang, and the turbulent lightning suddenly exploded. A silver-gray rapier with a scorching red blade and an electric arc flashed on it flew out, piercing the metal wall with a clang. At the last moment, Binghua flinched and changed the trajectory of her sword swing to meet the slashing blade of the sword, because there was no thought of evasion in Sabino's eyes, only the thought of splitting her in half. Binghua flew upside down and slid back several meters on the platform after landing, causing a string of sparks to come out from the friction. Tick-tock! Tick-tock! The sound came out, Binghua's right hand hung down by his side, and drops of blood were dripping on the ground along his fingers. I'm so stupid that I actually went head-to-head with a third-generation warrior. Binghua's delicate face twitched slightly due to the severe pain in her right shoulder, and she suppressed the jingling that tried to escape her eyes and laughed at herself. Sabino flicked the blood-stained blade, held the knife again in a posture that was conducive to chopping, and spoke in a cold tone. You are still too naive, little girl. In a hand-to-hand fight, all you need is momentum. If you are afraid, you will naturally shrink back. At the last moment, Binghua overestimated her capabilities and used her rapier to intercept Sabino's sword. The result was naturally very tragic. Although she escaped the end of being split in half, it was not without cost. Her entire right shoulder was severely injured and her right hand was directly disabled. At this moment, the armor on Binghua's right shoulder was split open, revealing the flesh and blood inside and the bones with a faint metallic luster. If the super soldier's bones weren't hard enough and Binghua's blow was offset, Binghua would have probably broken his entire right shoulder at this moment. Binghua endured the pain and closed her eyes, and the scene of matter microscopic wormholes began to be transported on the Legion commander's armor. Seeing this, Sabino immediately quickened his pace, stepped on the ground and rushed to Binghua's position, but it was already too late. The white Pajun heavy armor has firmly protected Binghua's entire body, and the wings behind his back have also been folded. There is no flaw in his body. At the same time, the space behind Binghua begins to show signs of slight distortion. The next moment, several Han swords wrapped in leaping electric arcs fiercely shot out from the twisted space, so fast that they even left blue after images like lasers in the air. Sabino saw an object shooting towards him in the air, and instantly calculated its shooting trajectory in his mind. He twisted his body to the limit in the air to avoid several blue flying objects. At the same time, the long-handled sword that was originally rising was blocked by Sabino, spinning like a windmill to block. There was a deafening sound of metal collision, and a silver Han sword with a reddish blade was bounced away. Sabino, who was blocking in the air, did not get any benefit and was directly knocked away by the huge kinetic energy. Seeing Sabino being repulsed by the ejection Han sword in the arsenal he opened, Binghua immediately closed the space wormhole above his head, feeling dizzy with his head heating up. Damn it, has the computing power of the gene engine been interfered with? We need to suppress it quickly, otherwise it will be bad if we get caught. Binghua's figure swayed, and then a dark shadow came in his sight. He quickly dodged to one side regardless of the discomfort in his mind. The sacred code on Pa Jun's boots was activated, and Binghua rushed to the side as the lightning exploded, and then the previous place was split in half by a sword. Then Sabino smoothly connected with a horizontal slash and slashed Binghua's waist in the air. A harsh sound of metal collision and friction was heard as Binghua flew several times faster and hit the metal platform directly. When Sabino paused, the halo of dark energy clung to the blade again, and he was about to strike again. The eyes behind Binghua's visor condensed, and she discovered a very strange thing. Sabino seemed to have deliberately avoided the pursuit from the beginning of the battle with her, and would often pause for a period of time after every collision. Don't take advantage of victory and pursue it. Then give it a try. Binghua thought secretly, and then allocated part of his computing power to activate the light and shadow drive, and then the remaining computing power began to concentrate on deciphering the special energy of the flame-level weapon at the wound. Sabino paused for a moment and rushed towards Binghua again. The sword naturally slashed hard. Binghua sat there as if he was frightened, and was split into two halves the next moment. Fake. Sabino immediately turned around and swung his sword to knock away the incoming Han sword, but he also took a step back because of the huge kinetic energy on the Han sword. But Binghua appeared in another direction, raising a hand in Sabino's direction. The next moment, several more Han swords than before shot out from the wormhole above Binghua's head, forming intersecting flight trajectories and shooting towards Sabino. At the same time, Binghua reached into the wormhole and took out something similar to an injection, which contained a thick, burning orange liquid. It is the promotion super gene of the second-generation super warrior, which contains all the energy needed to promote a first-generation warrior to the second-generation level. That's all we can do. Binghua removed his breastplate to reveal the white underwear inside, and then inserted the injection around his collarbone in a somewhat distressed manner. The super soldier itself cannot be regarded as a pure organism. The cells in the body will automatically absorb radiation and light energy in the universe to replenish the energy in the body. Now, Binghua was injured by a raging flame weapon, and the gene engine was interfered with. The energy in his body was rapidly consumed, and spontaneously gathered around the wound to resist the erosion of the energy of the raging flame weapon. In this state, Binghua didn't think he had any chance of winning, and Binghua happened to have some knowledge about super genes, so he came up with the flame-level energy that uses external energy to quickly suppress and expel wounds. As for the damage to the super gene or any unknown bad changes in the future, Binghua is not within the scope of consideration for the time being. She just wants to defeat Sabino now. It can be clearly seen that the faint burning orange light began to center on Binghua's neck, turning into tiny veins and rushing towards the wound. Binghua gritted his teeth and endured the severe pain from the wound, while increasing the number of Han swords ejected from the wormhole. Han swords were ejected from the micro-wormhole by the electromagnetic catapult at the other end. After Sabino waved his sword to resist several Han swords, he was finally able to break through the defense. Several Han swords pierced Sabino's chest at once, sending him flying backwards and slamming into the armor of the Skyblade battleship. Sabino gritted his teeth as he was trapped in the armor wall, because there were 4 or 5 silver Han swords inserted into his breastplate, but unfortunately, most of the Han sword blades were exposed. After Sabino jumped out of the wall, he immediately stretched out his hand, pulled out all the Han swords inserted in his chest and threw them on the ground aside. Binghua's sharp eyes discovered that only the tip of the sword was stained with a little blood. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 107. Binghua's chest heaved violently, because the huge energy was introduced into his body, and the special energy retained by the flame-level weapon at the wound was quickly being offset. The originally groggy brain gradually became clearer and could calculate micro-wormholes more smoothly. At the same time, the computing power of the gene engine gradually recovered. However, the injury to the right shoulder did not recover, it just stopped getting worse. Sabino, who was not far away, lamented that he had been too ignorant and backward on Mir for thousands of years. This kind of attack method was simply unheard of. Without seeing the weapon that fired the Han sword, we could only calculate its attack trajectory instantly after the Han sword appeared. But the flying speed of the Han sword is too fast. Even if the shooting trajectory can be calculated, it will be difficult to block them all if there are too many. But fortunately, those Han swords were not flame-level weapons, otherwise he would have been hit hard just now. If a breakthrough is not found as soon as possible, Sabino estimates that he will be besieged to death in a while, because the male angel's army on the battlefield has fallen into an absolute disadvantage and will soon reach its ultimate defeat. Similar to Sabino, Binghua is also thinking about how to deal with Sabino. The arsenal of weapons is the same as the first-generation Thunder tactics, which are not too mature technologies. Otherwise, changes in the magnetic field would not have caused changes in the calculation data of the first generation of Thunder tactics, and Sabino would have been given the opportunity to chop himself with a knife and lose his right hand. It's true that success is also a mere star, and failure is also a mere star. Binghua thought so, and she ordered the Skyblade warship to launch a star-killing strike on Mir Star, forcing Sabino out. However, the electromagnetic waves spread when Mir Star exploded, disrupted the magnetic field on the battlefield, causing her miscalculation and serious injury. But the top priority now is how to deal with Sabino. Binghua's inventory of weapons is as follows. There are 1,800 Han swords left. The rest are individual weapons, such as the flaming dagger, the flaming sword, and the whip sword, also known as the snake belly sword. Weapons, transforming swords, and guns, army-breaking shields, and divine locks. At the same time, Binghua also remotely ordered the ejection device in the weapons arsenal to reload to prevent the subsequent shooting from being interrupted. The micro-wormhole was also closed after Sabino stopped approaching. Binghua began to think about how to use these weapons to set up a killing trap for Sabino. With his right hand disabled, he no longer had to think about close combat. There was only a little bit of red gold mixed in the Han sword, so it was simply unrealistic to cause fatal injuries to Sabino. It seemed that there was only one way, and that was to restrict his movements, and then use a flame-level weapon to cause fatal injuries. After Binghua felt almost recovered and could perform multi-line control, he immediately began to deploy and attack. The micro-wormhole Han sword ejection was opened again, and a total of 6 Han swords were shot out. The shooting trajectory did not all attack at one point, but showed a scattering blockade. This can effectively prevent Sabino from dodging completely, because whether he dodges or not, he is still in the shooting trajectory of the two Han swords. Coupled with the flying speed of the Han sword, which is several times the speed of sound, ordinary second-generation warriors cannot catch it with the naked eye. Sabino stood still and did not move. He just twisted his body into a special posture. He swung the sword in his hand and knocked away a Han sword, dodging this wave of attacks. However, it was obvious that Binghua's attack was not limited to this wave. The next round of attacks immediately followed, like two combat teams holding weapons and shooting alternately. This was because Binghua was limited by her computing power and could not open a larger wormhole. Otherwise, she would have loved to create a micro wormhole that could accommodate 100 Han swords to shoot at the same time. While Sabino was resisting the flying Han sword and relying on his third-generation super soldier's physique to slowly approach Binghua, Binghua didn't do anything. The light and shadow drive algorithm is started, and the target is set to itself and the Shushan lock. A cone-shaped chain with a faint burning red light on its surface appeared from Binghua's wormhole, and then was quickly blocked by the light and shadow algorithm and disappeared into the air. Sabino hid while moving forward with difficulty, his eyes always fixed on Binghua's direction. A silver Han sword broke through Sabino's blockade in one go, piercing through the armor on his body with a pop. The huge kinetic energy inevitably caused a slight deformation in his movements. Just like a signal, more silver Han swords penetrated Sabino's armor and knocked him out again. After being pushed back for more than 10 meters, Sabino spread his wings in the air and did a somersault. As soon as he landed on the ground, he tried to dodge to one side. Hearing just a few loud rumblings, the spot where he landed was hit by the flying Han sword and made several dents. Sabino continued to move vertically and gradually approached Binghua's position, while all the flying Han swords could only follow behind Sabino and eat dust. Have you found the weakness of micro-wormhole projection? It seems that this aspect will be optimized and improved in the future. Binghua looked at Sabino, who was gradually approaching his position, with a look of panic on his face, but he was very calm in his heart, and he still had time to consider the shortcomings and improvements of micro-wormhole projection. The surrounding scenery quickly retreated. Sabino's body was boiling with faint dark energy, and at the same time he opened his mouth and let out a low roar. The dark orange flame on the sword burned violently like a flame, causing Sabino's speed to increase again. This was a knife that was filled with all his strength. Sabino was confident enough to cut Binghua's unprotected neck, splitting it in half. Binghua seemed to be stunned. He stood there and seemed to have just thought of hiding, but it was already too late. The sword slashed down, leaving a bright arc in the air. It struck with unusual precision from Binghua's clavicle, which had no breastplate protection, and sank into the metal platform at Binghua's feet without any hindrance. But Sabino's face was extremely ugly. He didn't even bother to pull the weapon out of the ground. He immediately let go and jumped to the side, but it was already too late. The air became blurry, and at some point a large net made entirely of chains had been covering Sabino as he jumped back. The front end of the tapered chain was randomly inserted into the chain, and then the chain was tightened to tightly bind Sabino in the middle. At this moment, Binghua suddenly appeared from the air on one side, holding the flaming sword in his left hand and stabbing forward. The red sword blade became extremely dazzling under the blessing of dark energy. Phew! The flaming sword only paused slightly before piercing Sabino's broken breastplate and penetrating his chest. Then Binghua released the hilt of the sword without stopping. A sword with a red blade and a strange long sword that was assembled section by section was carried out. Then Binghua moved forward again without hesitation and stabbed Sabino. Chest. This was not over yet. Binghua quickly jumped back and took out another weapon. It was a flame-level dagger. Binghua waved his left arm and threw it forward with force. Before Sabino had time to break free from the chains that bound him, 3 more flame-level weapons appeared on his body. After Binghua finished all this, he stopped moving, but opened a micro wormhole above his head just in case. But Binghua thought too much. Sabino, who had 3 weapons stuck in his chest, raised his head with blood flowing from the corner of his mouth, and his tall body fell back weakly with a muffled sound. The flame-level weapon pierced into the body continuously emitted energy to destroy the super gene in Sabino's body. Unlike Binghua's injury, this situation was undoubtedly more deadly. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 108. After seeing that Sabino lost the ability to resist, Binghua sat down on the ground and her tight muscles finally relaxed. She felt that her injured right shoulder began to hurt again. And Sabino just lay on the ground and looked at the starry sky without saying a word, thinking in his heart that he had fallen with mere star, so he had completed the order of the King of Heavenly War. It's just a pity that there is no army commander who can kill the enemy. It seems that he is really old. Shortly after Sabino was killed by Binghua, the tens of thousands of angel legions that followed him in the charge were all annihilated. The center of the Mir galaxy was completely occupied by the Heavenly Sword Legion, and the Angel Legion guarding the border finally disappeared after hearing the news of Sabino's defeat and the destruction of Mir Star. Because Binghua was seriously injured, everything after occupying the Mir galaxy was handed over to Angel Ran, and her legion once again lay in the recovery warehouse. The change of ownership in the Mil galaxy shocked several forces in the Angel Nebula, including the expatriate Wang Lianjun and Huaya of the Tiangong group who were attacking each other. Kesha's power is getting stronger and stronger, we can't let them continue to develop like this. Huaya sat on the throne with a gloomy face and spoke. Chen Xin below thought for a moment and then spoke. King, although the female angels have grown in power, they do not have high-end combat power. They are not something to be afraid of now. We should completely defeat them while the Wang Alliance forces sent abroad have not completed their reorganization. The king's coalition forces were similarly sent out. Her glass scolded the female angels for taking advantage of the situation, but he just said it and had no intention of sending troops to take back the Mir galaxy. After the Mir galaxy changed hands, some of the affiliated civilizations that originally submitted to the Heavenly War King quickly surrendered to the Heavenly Sword Legion. Of course, this was superficial surrender. Today, the Tianzhan Legion has 2 galaxies under its jurisdiction, and its military strength is a bit stretched, making it impossible to effectively rule the galaxies. However, Binghua didn't care, because these were nothing. Those affiliated civilizations had no other role besides providing some resources, and they didn't dare to get involved in the civil war of the angel civilization. At the same time, in the outermost area of the Mil galaxy near the edge of the Angel Nebula, in a barren star system, a planet that was overall gray and black began to become restless. The sky was pitch black, and the land below was full of hideous and weird buildings, mixed with slightly dim lights. The tower-shaped stacked buildings were decorated with spikes that looked like blades. In a hall in the largest building that looked like a castle, a dull male voice was reporting something loudly. Reporting to Your Majesty, the front-line troops discovered that the angels guarding the border had withdrawn their troops on a large scale some time ago. The dispatch team investigated and reported that the angels' withdrawal was true. And there is more important news. The Heavenly War King of the Mir galaxy has fallen, and even the Mir star has been destroyed. Now the Mir galaxy is occupied by a group of female birdmen. Then a man's voice, which was duller than the one reporting, sounded from further inside the dimly lit hall. On a throne filled with darkness and ferocious blades, a giant with tangled muscles and skin covered with cuticles like armor, with only one scarlet one-eyed horn in his head, was sitting on the throne. Ha ha ha! That old man Hua Ben fought with me for thousands of years and finally died. This is a blessing for your civilization. The withdrawal of the border-guarding angels has opened the door to the interior of the Mir galaxy. How could I miss such an opportunity? The ear-splitting laughter echoed in the hall, causing the air to vibrate slightly, and a bloodthirsty smile appeared on the lowered face of the strong, half-kneeling figure below. Binghua, why did you injure yourself all over again? I've told you before that the super gene of the third generation super soldier is almost completed, can't you wait? Like Binghua's biological sister, Hexi stretched out a finger to point at Binghua, who was fixed by silver metal at her shoulder. Binghua estimated that if it weren't for the projection, He-11's finger would have poked his forehead. After scolding Hexi for a while, looking at Binghua's miserable state and the innocent smile on her face, he could only sigh helplessly. I really don't understand what you and Kesha are thinking. You and Kesha are always injured and then come to me. Haha, Sister Hexi, didn't I win? And the electromagnetic ejection theory you gave me is very useful. If it hadn't been for it, I might not have won. Binghua sighed. In the end, if it weren't for the ejection of the Han sword that forced Sabino into a trap, the outcome would still be unknown. Forget it, don't come to me about fighting. I'll show you how your super genes are doing, and upgrade you to a third generation super soldier by the way. Has the third generation super gene belonging to the female angel been successfully researched? Binghua said in surprise. Hexi's eyebrows twitched and he spoke in a bad tone. Do you not trust my scientific research level, sister? No, 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 Sister Hexi, you are the smartest among our female angels. I am not surprised at all that you succeeded. Binghua waved his hands quickly and spoke with a smile on his face, but the injury on his shoulder still made his mouth twitch. Looking at Binghua's appearance at this moment, Hexi shook his head in amusement and raised his hand to indicate that it was okay. Okay, okay, stop pretending, lie down and let go of your dark plane genetic firewall, and I'll check the status of your super genes. Binghua lay obediently on the bed in his room and closed his eyes, while Hexi began to remotely check Binghua's super gene status through the internal computer of Tianren where Binghua was located. As the inventor of the second generation super gene of the female angel, He-11 quickly completed the inspection work. During the examination, Binghua didn't feel much, but he noticed that a huge external computing power invaded his body and he lost control of his body. Hexi put his fingers on his chin and spoke to Binghua, who woke up. Part of your super genes have overlapping functions, and some genetic information has been overwritten by the same ones, causing some of your body's abilities to lose their function. Is that so? I wonder why several days have passed and the injury on my shoulder has not healed yet. The energy of the flame-level weapon in the wound has obviously been resolved. Binghua said what she was thinking about, and Hexi nodded. Your body's self-healing function has stopped and you can only rely on time to recover. But don't worry, these are all trivial matters to you and me. After a while, I will send you the treatment procedures and the upgrade technology of the third generation super soldiers through the wormhole. Just pay attention and receive it. Thank you so much, Sister Hexi. Binghua said in surprise. Hexi curled his lips when he saw this. You just say nice things, but I've never heard you speak like a sister like me. By the way, I will give you a list of resources for promoting to the third generation of super warriors. Make sure you send them to me. Binghua's originally surprised expression fell and he muttered. You didn't give it to me, but you still treat me as a sister. Although Binghua spoke softly, He-11's expression changed the moment he heard it. Do you think that the resources of the Space Base Corps are all brought by strong winds? Your sister and I are also very poor. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 109. Okay, Sister Hexi, I will send it to you. Don't be angry, okay? Binghua first admitted her mistake. Hexi snorted, and then returned to her usual intellectual appearance. Okay, we've discussed what needs to be discussed, just wait to receive the equipment to upgrade the super gene. By the way, Binghua, I don't have enough time. Next time I will introduce a sister to you. I believe you will be able to talk about it." When Hexi mentioned the word sister, his face showed a distressed look, but it was very warm. This was something Binghua had never seen before. Binghua was wearing a white gauze dress with silver metallic patterns on it, sitting in front of the dressing table mirror in her room. Behind her, Angel Ran was arranging Binghua's back-length jet black hair. However, Binghua personally thinks that her hair does not need any care at all, because her hair is already smooth and dark, and usually does not get messed up at all. But when Angel Ran saw that the Legion commander was injured and had difficulty moving, he offered to help take care of it. Binghua couldn't bear to refuse and agreed. "Honestly, it's been a long time since anyone took care of my hair. The last time I remember it was my mother." Angel Ran spoke while using a silver comb to comb Binghua's long, dark hair. "Sister Binghua, your mother must love you very much, right?" "Of course, there is no mother in the world who doesn't love her children. I remember when I was a child, I asked my father to practice swordsmanship. My mother was afraid that I would endure hardship and persuaded me to give up." Binghua couldn't help but have a soft smile on her face as she recalled the time after she was a child. Angel Ran kept combing her hair, and murmured something in her mouth with a gloomy expression. "That's great." Binghua saw Angel Ran's face looking a little gloomy and asked doubtfully, "What's wrong with you, Ran?" "It's okay, Sister Binghua." "Really, Ran? If you have anything, just tell me, otherwise I will be too incompetent as a eldest sister." Angel Ran nodded, recalling a somewhat vague memory in her mind. It was when she was 5 years old, and she accidentally heard her father and mother arguing in the room. "Please, I can give birth to a son for you, but don't drive us mother and daughter away." A woman with blonde hair and blue eyes, with tearful eyes, knelt on the ground and grabbed the clothes of a handsome man named Kong Wu, but she was roughly pushed aside by the man. "No need. Besides, I don't need a useless daughter. What I need is a son who can fight on the battlefield, so you leave here." After saying that, the man left the room without mercy, leaving the woman alone in the room. When he left, he gave Angel Ran, who was only 5 years old at the time, an indifferent look. Ran clearly remembered that the cold eyes were like looking at an object, without any emotion at all. She was so frightened that she shrank back. After his father left, Ran walked into the room and came to his mother, who was crying softly, and shouted softly, "Mother!" The blonde woman raised her delicate face, still stained with tears, looked at Ran with disgust in her eyes, and spoke to the angry Chao Ran. "Why? Why aren't you a boy? Why were you born a girl?" After coming back to her senses, Angel Ran put the bad memories behind her, and her mother finally took her away from her home in Tiancheng and settled down on a relatively remote planet in the Angel Nebula. Although her mother hated her identity as a girl, she still chose to raise her up hard. This Yan Ran was very grateful to her mother. A few days later, He-11 transmitted the upgraded equipment of the third-generation supergene, as well as a number of instruments for treating supergene damage through remote space technology, and was received by the Tianjian base in the Keela system. Binghua also took his flagship through an ultra-long-distance space jump and returned to the Sky Sword Legion base in the Cross system, where he began to receive treatment and upgrades to the third-generation Super Warrior. Binghua came to the laboratory of the Sky Sword Legion and saw that in one area of the laboratory, a metal cabin with gorgeous golden lines and a frosted silver outer wall stood there. It looked like a coffin. This is the upgrade cabin that Hexi sent over using space transmission technology, but Binghua feels that it is more like a piece of exquisite art than the equipment used to use it. However, Binghua just complained secretly in her heart, and did not have any emotions such as disgust. Her aesthetics were normal for the time being. After all, it was designed to be eye-catching. Entering the upgrade cabin, after uploading the treatment and third-generation super soldier upgrade information, A special energy magnetic field caused Binghua to float in the upgrade cabin. Then huge energy passed through the energy supply facilities of Tianjin's foundation and poured into the super gene upgrade warehouse where Binghua stayed. Then, after Binghua's gene engine received this energy, it spontaneously began to upgrade and transform cells throughout the body based on the third-generation super soldier supergenetic data transmitted by He-11. First of all, the strength of cells has become denser and stronger, the energy that can be accommodated inside is also larger than before, and the functions are also developing towards diversification. Then there is the most important gene engine, which is what Binghua is most looking forward to. Binghua's consciousness begins to blur, and then returns to darkness, but the upgrade of the gene engine does not stop. In a corner of a planet full of life, a violent explosion sounded, accompanied by countless crying and wailing sounds. God! Why is our civilization suffering from this disaster? Please ask the gods to punish those evil giants. An old man with an old appearance and wrinkled skin was kneeling on a statue with perfect muscular lines, holding a sharp sword. Wearing armor and with wings on its back, the white statue holds its hands together in front of it and prays sincerely. A sturdy brown man holding a sharp sword and wearing armor suddenly broke into the spacious temple. As soon as he entered, he asked anxiously, "Has God responded?" "Sorry, Your Majesty." After praying, the old man in white brocade clothes stood up from the ground and spoke to the man with a depressed expression. "Has God abandoned us?" The man murmured and walked out of the temple in despair. The Konar Empire is a cold weapon civilization located near the edge of the Mir galaxy. Human intelligence is still in its ignorant stage, but a few days ago the evil black Cyclops descended from the sky. They have a strong body of 3 meters, and are covered with extremely hard armor. They are invulnerable, and they kill cruelly. They massacred several cities in the Principality of Konar in one day. And what makes the Konar Empire despair is that these black giants have no intention of communicating with them, and do not even accept the surrender of the Konar people. And not long after these giants arrived, many giant black flying monster ships arrived, and then those monster ships began to devour the earth non-stop. If this continues, the world will be destroyed by the black giants sooner or later. Thousands of years ago, a similar crisis occurred in the Konar Empire. However, at that time, a god with wings on his back came to the world and sent down divine punishment to destroy those evil existences and save Konar Empire. But now a few days have passed, and half of the territory of the Konar Empire has been occupied by black giants. However, there is no sign of the god appearing, and even prayers have not received any response. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 110. When Binghua regained consciousness, his body was still in the upgrade cabin of the super gene. His whole body was suspended inside the upgrade cabin, and weak burning orange energy was constantly pouring into his body. When the 2 guardian angels guarding the outside of the upgrade cabin saw the Legion commander regaining consciousness, they quickly raised their left hands and put them to their ears to say something. A moment later, Angel Ran's figure appeared outside the upgrade cabin, and then Binghua received Angel Ran's secret communication request. "Ran, what's wrong with you? Is there anything important you are looking for me in such a hurry? And how long has it been since I started entering here?" Maybe Binghua had too many questions at the same time. Angel Ran needed to organize his words and spoke after a few seconds. "It has been 3 days since you entered the upgrade cabin. Everything is fine in the Sky Sword Legion these days, but there is a situation at the edge of the Mir galaxy." "Well, what happened?" Binghua frowned slightly. This was the news she least wanted to hear. "You must know that Mir Star actually belongs to the Sky Sword Legion." "Legion Commander, the situation is like this. Because of the fall of the Heavenly War King and our destruction of the Mill Star, most of the border guarding angel legions in the Mir Star system have withdrawn from the guarding area and switched to Huaye's command. Therefore, Some animal and semi-animal civilizations that were originally driven out of the Angel Nebula by the Angel civilization began to have unbearable ambitions. Some of them have already crossed the border of the Mir galaxy. According to the statistics obtained, there are already 3 cold weapons civilization and 2 pre-nuclear civilizations were destroyed at the hands of the invading half-animal civilization. After Angel Ran finished speaking, he glanced at Binghua's face through the transparent crystal of the upgrade cabin. After seeing that there was no impatience, he continued to talk about the information he had obtained. At the same time, several pre-nuclear civilizations mistakenly thought that we were the Legion under the command of the Heavenly War King, so they asked our Heavenly Sword Legion for help. Because you, the Legion commander, did not wake up, I did not send troops to rescue without authorization. Binghua closed her eyes and began to ponder, and began to sort out the information contained in Angel Ran's words just now. From Angel Ran's words, we can know that the reason why the half-animal civilization invaded the Angel Nebula was because he led the Heavenly Sword Legion to destroy the Mir star and killed Sabino and other events that fermented the impact. Before Mir planet was destroyed by Skyblade's Star Destroyer strike, Binghua got the news that the border guard Angel Legion had withdrawn from the border. It was because of the return of the border guard angels that Binghua issued the order to destroy the Mir star, but until the end, the border guard Angel Legion appeared in the Mir star system. Instead, after learning the news that Mir star was destroyed midway, he changed his route and left the Mir galaxy and joined the army of Tiangong King Huayet. At that time, Binghua didn't take the border guarding angels seriously, because he had never heard of any civilization invading the Angel Nebula since Binghua was born. Unexpectedly, now that the Sky Sword Legion has just taken control of the Mil Galaxy, they will usher in the invasion of the half-animal civilization. What makes Binghua even more intolerable is the strategy of the Heavenly Sword Legion, those civilizations that were destroyed and invaded by the half-animal civilization. The Angel civilization completed the war for dominance in the Angel Nebula more than 1,000 years ago. The half-animal and animal civilizations in the nebula were either expelled or annihilated by Huake leading the Angel army. Among them, the relatively weak civilizations were destroyed, while the slightly more powerful ones with long-range interstellar navigation capabilities fled to the relatively barren and remote corners of the Angel Nebula to hide. However, now there is a large-scale civil war in the Angel civilization, and several Angel Kings who were sent by the previous Angel King to guard the borders are fighting fiercely with Huayet. 6 of the Angel expatriate kings fell in the civil war. The Angel civilization, which had begun to decline under the leadership of Huayet, now seems to have suffered an unprecedented weakening in overall strength. Among them, the Mil Galaxy is experiencing frequent changes. It makes sense that some civilizations squatting in barren areas and expelled by angels would invade. Ran, do you know it's the Mil Galaxy that the civilization invaded? After Binghua sorted out the information, he opened his eyes and looked at Xiang Ran and asked through the dark communication. Legion Commander, the civilization that invaded the Mir Galaxy is mainly the half-animal Cyclops civilization. They have now crossed the border of the Muradal star system. Ran, what is the civilization strength of this Cyclops? Have you collected any information? Legion Commander, the information about the Cyclops civilization is not a secret among the Angel civilization. This civilization is a primary god-making civilization. However, because the mother planet was destroyed by King Huakui more than 1,000 years ago, and it has always been in a resource-poor area, so the overall level is about to fall out of the level of god-making civilization. At the same time, among the Cyclops, only the Cyclops King is a third-generation half-animal warrior, and the highest level of the rest of the clan is only a second-generation warrior. The original Heavenly War King Huabang only sent tens of thousands of border guard angels to suppress the Cyclops civilization in the corner of the Angel Nebula for thousands of years. After Ran finished speaking, Binghua nodded to indicate that he knew it. It seems that their strength is not that strong, so there is no need for the Heavenly Sword Legion to remain silent. After Binghua listened to Angel Ran talk about the situation of the Cyclops civilization, an idea suddenly came to his mind, that is, to use this god-making civilization that was about to fall to the aerospace-level civilization to train troops for the Heavenly Sword Legion. Ran, you go and mobilize all the new recruits who have completed training at the Sky Sword Legion base, and then go to the Mir star system, and form a mixed army with the Sky Sword Legion stationed there on standby. I now need 2 days to complete the promotion of the 3rd generation warrior. After completion, I decided to personally lead the Legion to attack the Cyclops King. In these 2 days, your mission is to lead 100,000 soldiers to stop the further expansion of the Cyclops civilization in the Mir galaxy. Ran nodded seriously, and then asked again. Legion Commander, what to do with those civilized people asking for help? Do we need to send troops to assist? Binghua sighed slightly. If you can help, try to rescue them. After all, they are now nominally an affiliated civilization of the Sky Sword Legion. However, if the situation is unclear or too dangerous, the rescue can be abandoned. Everything must be based on the safety of the sisters' lives. Binghua saw that Angel Ran was hesitant to speak, so he opened his mouth again. Ran, do you think my order is too indifferent? This is not because I am indifferent. Although I personally sympathize with those ravaged civilizations, you must remember that you are a commander, not a soldier, and you must be responsible for the sisters who trust you. In my opinion, the lives of our sisters are more important than so-called compassion. After all, they are not angels and are not worthy of the sisters giving their young lives. This is also the reason why I gave this task to you and did not ask Lan to accompany you. She is too emotional and not suitable for this kind of thing. After Binghua finished speaking, although the hesitation on Angel Ran's face did not dissipate, he still answered seriously. I know the Legion Commander. I will put the safety of my sisters as my priority.